Before we begin this, I recently started a podcast called the NBA Plus Stuff Pod. You can find a link to it in the top comment of this video. Episode 1, I was discussing Andrew Wiggins, Karl Anthony Towns, as well as Stranger Things Season 2. And that's a regular thing now, so look out for that. And I'll always link it on Twitter and things like that. But now, it's time to talk about Andre Drummond and Detroit Pistons, who are currently 10-3 on the season. And what you're looking at right now is old Andre Drummond, even if Avery Bradley's in some of these clips and he wasn't there before this season, but whatever. Last season for the Pistons, Andre Drummond averaged 7 post-ups a game. And as we all kind of know, Drummond's post-ups don't really equal productive offense. A lot of the time, he would just kind of brick a hook shot, or maybe even a turnaround jumper. But it would also just slow the offense down. And the other problem is, as we're going to touch on in a little bit, because Drummond, for most of his career, has not been a good free throw shooter, even if you foul him on a post-up, it doesn't really equal good things for the Pistons. So overall, just not a productive thing having Andre Drummond with his back to the basket looking to score over opposing big players. And the other one was, of course, the free throw shooting. Drummond has been one of the worst free throw shooters in the history of the league for the first 3 or 4 years of his career, if I'm remembering how long he's been in the NBA correctly. And besides just giving the other team an avenue to just foul Drummond, I think this also created times where you couldn't have Drummond in the game in late moments because the other team could just intentionally foul him. And when you have a guy who you hope can be your best player and he can't be on the floor in big moments, that's a problem. But now we fast forward to this season, and I think those post-ups, they're just flat out gone, and they're now turning into possessions where Drummond is at the top of the key, and there is action going towards the basket. He's handing the ball off to guys as they come around the top of the floor, around the three-point line, and he's making passes. And he's playing within himself more, and he's playing within more of a structured offense where he doesn't shoot the ball as much, but he passes more frequently. He's up to over 3 assists a game right now for the Pistons. And it seems like he really embraces this style of play. He said that it's exciting to try to get his teammates open and just get more assists. His shots per game are down to around 10 a game. And what might be the biggest thing is that his post-ups, which like I said last season were around 7 per game, he's now averaging 2.5 post-ups per game, which means he's not really doing it that much, and that's great. So instead of Drummond having a whole bunch of plays where he slows down the offense and doesn't really lead to many good things, now he's making plays for other guys, opening up the floor, getting the opposing center out of the paint. So that's awesome. And then the free throw shooting, he's up to 65%. He changed his form. I don't think anyone expects him to be some amazing free throw shooter, but just being good enough to where the other team can't foul you intentionally, and also give yourself a little bit more confidence when it comes to being physical around the rim because you're not afraid to potentially get fouled. All very good things for Drummond. Defensively, I think he's gotten better as his career has went along. I think as a pick and roll defender, he's shown an ability to step up and defend opposing perimeter players and do an okay job of it, and I think he's just continuing that this season. Maybe even a little better, which is nice. I don't know if I'm ever going to consider Drummond one of the best defensive bigs in the league, but as long as you're not killing your team on that side of the floor when you're in, and then you're being productive offensively, then I think that's okay overall. And who knows, maybe Drummond could build on his ability to play outside of the paint defense and actually become really good on the defensive side of the floor. He's still getting a couple of screen and rolls a game. He's averaging about 2 rolls to the basket per game. So there is always the chance for him and Reggie Jackson to connect on some alley-oops. But it seems like this new style of play is really just allowing Drummond to kind of get a lot of his buckets in the one area that he's still great in, which is offensive rebounding. He gets about 5 offensive boards a game. And even if Drummond made no improvements to his offense, even if he didn't get better as a free throw shooter and didn't get better as a passer, the rebounding was still going to be there, and that is still something the other team has to account for. I mean, you have to make sure that you have at least one big guy in the game who can really box out Drummond. And I think that's a skill, because nowadays where so many teams like to go with smaller centers who can dribble and shoot and all that, if you put Drummond in the game and he's just able to get offensive rebounds at will because the other center isn't very physical or strong, then that can really hinder what other teams want to do. So when we're looking at being an okay free throw shooter, being a passer, and then grabbing a lot of offensive rebounds, Drummond is really helping out Detroit's offense. I mean, their offensive rating is 110 with him in the game, which is a huge improvement over the past couple of seasons. Now, if we look at how Drummond's improvement has helped out the Pistons overall, I mean, they're top 10 in both offensive rating and defensive rating, and I think a lot of that would be because, well, we know what they're doing on offense with Drummond, everything I've just mentioned, how he makes their offense just a lot more team-oriented. Instead of just being about him with post-ups and stuff, they have a lot of good defensive players. There's Stanley Johnson, who can defend NBA wings pretty admirably. Of course, Avery Bradley is a similar player to what they had with Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, but I think Bradley is the type of guy who can uplift the team and make everyone play defense, whereas I think KCP was just kind of an individual good defender. Also, Anthony Tolliver has been great for them off the bench. Even if his percentages have not been the best, he's been playing some quality defense, and they're way better when he's in the game as opposed to not in the game. But I still think Drummond is at the center of this all, because if he doesn't make these improvements and he doesn't make their offense better, then I don't think they would be this entertaining, and I don't think they would be this good.